Welcome to Financial Focus, brought to you by GulfCoast Financial Services founder and CEO, John Kuykendall. John and his team of financial, legal, and tax professionals have been providing North Florida savers and investors sound, comprehensive financial guidance for over 30 years, helping you to achieve important life and planning goals. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more Financial Focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net.
And welcome into the program. This is Financial Focus, brought to you by the best of the best in financial services, as named by the readers of the Lake City Reporter. 8 years and running, celebrating their 30th year, serving North Central Florida savers and investors. The team from GulfCoast Financial Services, founder and CEO John Kuykendall, here with us as always, providing the guidance and perspective. And John, one of the big questions that is on the minds of savers and investors: how do I make the most progress possible? How do I take advantage of every opportunity to get myself as financially prepared as I can be for retirement? Those are the questions we're going to tackle on today's program.
Well, that's right, Peter. You know, now, especially with the stock market doing what it's doing and not having a lot of gain, basically going up and down, people are concerned about being able to have enough money for retirement. And at the same time, even though the market has not been great this year, we still need to continue to invest, continue to save for retirement. We can't afford to miss out the whole year and not do anything.
And so we look for those opportunities. And John, I know that you spend a lot of your time there at GulfCoast Financial Services, educating your clients and helping them to identify the opportunities to make as much financial progress as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to make sure you're doing what you can, pick up the phone and give a call to John Kuykendall and the team from GulfCoast Financial Services, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. And to begin this conversation, John, I guess just a little bit of the clarification of the language and the difference between saving and investing, because many of us use the term kind of generically. I want to save as much as possible, when in reality, saving has a specific meaning. And what most of us are probably doing is investing as much, or we want to do as much investing as possible for long-term growth to make retirement achievable and affordable.
Well, I think, Peter, what we're talking about is with savings, I'm talking about the money that I'm setting aside for my current bills, for my short-term bills. And, you know, I'm not really investing that money for the long haul. So it's things that I use in the short term. And I think that, you know, Dave Ramsey says it best, you know, we should pay off our debt first. And then that'll enable us to save and invest more, because then we're putting our own money aside. So the first thing I think is we need to get out of debt as much as we can, except for our home. I still believe that the house is too large an investment to try to pay off and not at the same time still save and invest.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with my 12-year-old son recently, and I said, what would you do if we won the $1 billion Mega Millions lottery? And he said, well, we probably pay off the house first. And I sort of laughed at him and I said, hey, bud, you know, right now I locked into a 2.5% interest rate on my home for 30 years, and I can turn around and invest money and get a better rate than that for just 5 years. So I get you, John, though. Paying off most debts, especially in this rising interest rate environment, like the credit cards, are working against us pretty hard. I've seen 16 to 26% or so. We want to knock those out, because that's a rate of return negative working against us.
Well, I've always said that we don't want to have any kind of interest is not tax deductible. So, you know, our home interest is still tax deductible, but our installment credit certainly isn't. And you're right. We haven't seen these types of interest rates in a long, long time. And people have got very complacent to paying moving the money, the credit cards around and getting the 0 interest or the 2.5. And now that wheel's going to stop. The chair's gone. Now you need to pay the piper and start paying off that credit card debt.
Yeah. Well, so we've got our savings, and savings really equates to safe, right? Is a savings account in the bank, not any kind of market-based risk, but The opposite side of that coin, not keeping up with inflation, not earning attractive interest rates. So we need money to handle our day-to-day, month-to-month expenses. We need an emergency account. We need to pay off debts. A lot of Americans, John, a lot of pretty adamant savers and investors are looking for each and every opportunity to make the most of what they can do. And we've got those workplace plans, but they're saying, where can I do more? Where can I invest my next dollar? And actually, we overlook oftentimes one of the best opportunities to do so, which is in non-qualified, non-retirement accounts.
Well, that's right. We don't have to have a qualified account to invest. We can put money in a brokerage account, invest it just like we do with our 401k or just like we do with our defined benefit plan. But what we need to do is we need to open one and periodically put money into it, take that money out of those safe options that you've got that where you have too much money, and then start investing for the long haul. A brokerage account, we can invest in anything that we can invest in any investment through one of those brokerage accounts. You can do mutual funds, you can do bonds, you can do alternatives, property, real estate. There's anything you want to do, you can do there. But people overlook that and they keep their money in the bank. And in the savings account, which really isn't earning that much, or the checking account, when they could be using that brokerage account to really invest. And Peter, when you talked about safe, investing isn't putting your money in the fixed option in your 401k. That isn't the safe option. Now, there are times when that might be the thing to do, but you have to get out of that at some point in time. Don't be like the guy that left his account in the fixed option for 20 years and then thought that he was saving up a lot of money for retirement.
And he could have been contributing a sizable chunk of his income, but we need the growth on our money that comes with investment over time. That's what's going to give us the best chance of growth equal to or above and beyond inflation. And of course, inflation, a bigger deal right now than it has been anytime relatively recent history, but it is an ever-present factor. So, John, when we do consider those non-qualified, non-retirement investment or brokerage accounts, we do also need to understand that there are different options there and some potential different tax implications based on how long we hold those options.
That's right. If we hold the investments over a year, they're capital gains. Anything less than a year, if we start day trading, then that's all ordinary income and could impact our taxes overall. So we need to be careful about how we handle that brokerage account because it is non-qualified. That means we're going to pay taxes every year on what we gained in that account, either through capital gains if we sell or dividends and income that come into the account. So we need to be ready for that. We need to have taken that into consideration when we look at our taxes.
But for the avid saver looking to do as much as possible, a non-qualified account doesn't have those kind of limits or limitations that a retirement account otherwise has.
Well, no. And the thing about the brokerage account, which I really like, is it's totally liquid. So that money is available for any emergency, any short-term need I have. But at the same time, during retirement, if I build that brokerage account up, I'll be able to take money out of it and live on it without having to pay taxes on the money I'm pulling out of my IRA or 401k. So the investment account, the brokerage account gives us a lot more options in retirement. And I like to see our clients have a mixture of qualified, non-qualified, and the annuities, of course, to give us that fixed income. But we need a diversity in retirement. It just works best.
Again, we are talking with John Kuykendall. If you've got questions, if you would like to learn the options, the strategies to do as much as you can, to make as much financial progress, to build and grow wealth, pick up the phone, give the team from GulfCoast Financial Services a call. They can provide specific direction and guidance. 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. So, John, the next category here is the place where I think the majority of Americans do the majority of their savings or investing for retirement. And then that is right through their workplace, their employer-sponsored plan. There's a whole host of different tax codes that identify different types of names for these plans: 401k, 403b, TSP, 457. Generically, we can call them employer-sponsored retirement plans, or maybe even just sort of lump them under the umbrella of 401ks, even though they're not quite all the same.
Well, that's right. They do. They do look and act like the same, except that for some of them, the 403b, the 457 plan, that's going to be money that you defer pre-tax. And the state of Florida, of course, has that 457 plan. They have some great options for you to do, and also some self-directed options where you'll be able to kind of say what you wanted invested in with some outside vendors. So the 457, 403Bs are for government nonprofits. The 401k, of course, you're defined by the company on what we can invest in. But the thing about it is the company does match, and we always want to get the match because that's free money that we don't want to give away. But what most people forget about, Peter, is that thing called the Roth IRA. And while you still contribute to a 401k or one of those other plans, you may still be eligible for a non-deducted Roth IRA. And we need to build up tax-free money that we can pull out later in retirement. I'm working with a couple this afternoon, and all of their money, almost $1.5 million, is in qualified plans with no cash and no Roth IRAs. And so what we're trying to do is pull out before they reach a Medicare age. We're going to try to do 5 years of moving some of that money out of that 401k into a Roth IRA, into a Roth conversion, pay the taxes then. The reason we're doing it is when I looked at their required distributions at 72 when we did the plan, they were going to be in a higher tax bracket than they'd ever been in their life, just because of the 72T, the requirements for that minimum distribution. We have to get that money out of those accounts. The government's going to make us. And so that's the kind of planning we like to do here. I like to be able to look at that, see what that's going to do, and then make some suggestions. Before 65 is an ideal time to do a Roth conversion because I just pay the taxes.
That there is a cost to it, and we've got to understand what that is and make sure that we plan that strategically to try to control and minimize that cost. And IRAs and Roth were the next on our list here, John, and it sounds like those are the reasons why we may want to consider those as options, is that there is more ongoing control both over our investment choices as compared to an employer-sponsored plan, but also in controlling and managing our tax liability if we so choose to address that proactively.
That's right, Peter. One thing a lot of people forget is that there is such a thing called a spousal IRA. So even if you are, if you're in a 401k and your spouse or partner isn't, they're eligible to make a deduction, whether they have income or not, into a spousal IRA. So it's a great way to invest more money, save for retirement. And a lot of people forget about that. And a lot of people are still eligible for the individual retirement account, which is your account, even though they're in a 401k, based upon the income they make. Those are all the kind of things that we can help them with, and the things that we like to do for them when they come in.
John, there's a question in the show material that you provided of why is the 401k so commonly utilized in comparison to the brokerage accounts, the non-qualified, or the IRA or Roth. And if I could assert that it's because it's automatic and it's sort of done before we even earn the money, so it can be placed out of sight, out of mind, and made sure that at least something gets done there. But that's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because when it's done automatically, out of sight, out of mind, sometimes we forget about those type of opportunities and the importance of choice and options and control.
Well, that's right. It's kind of like when I was at the bank and I signed up for the United Way and didn't know it. It was automatic. They paid for it. It just came right out of my paycheck. I didn't even know they were doing it. But we were 100% United Way contributors, and they wanted to keep that. So every new employee got signed up. And that's the way it is with 401ks. They're automatic, it's there. But don't forget about the other options that are available to us and the way that we can help you with all these other things. If you've got a small business, you can open a SEP account, or if you have a small business with more employees, you can do a simple IRA. There's all kinds of ways that we can make retirement dollars work for you and help you build up those investment dollars prior to retirement. We're going to need, as taxes go up, and I just read that the government's looking at raising all kinds of new taxes because we've got this new inflation fighter bill that's going to fight inflation, but it's going to cost money. So therefore, they're going to raise taxes in order to pay for it. That didn't seem like a great win-win, but hey. But even though taxes are going up, inflation is going to be there. Interest rates, I don't think, are going to back down. I think we have seen the end of the low interest rate era. We can't afford that in our economy today. So we're going to need more money. We're going to need a lot more money in retirement. People are living longer. I mean, Peter, the generation now that's 40 years old, most of that generation will probably see over 100. There's also a new drug test that's going to tell you if you've got cancer and how to catch it before it gets into the later stages. So people are going to be living longer. We're going to be doing more things. We're going to need more money.
Absolutely. And that's why I think so many out there are asking, how can I take advantage of every opportunity? How can I do more? How can I identify ways to build and grow my wealth as effectively as possible? Because we've got that lingering question once we retire of, how do I make sure I don't run out of money? So if we take advantage of each and every opportunity and make the most of each and every dollar, we can have a better answer to address that top concern. And that does bring another issue here, John, is that there is a phase. There's a time of life and a season to invest for growth. And then there's a reason and a necessity to invest for income. And you talk a lot about that difference and about that transition. And it's something that I think more education and information is needed on, so that we understand what steps we must go through to address that transition and our needs into the future.
Well, Peter, one of the things we have to do is because retirement's difficult. There's nothing easy about retirement. I mean, it costs more money. There's a lot more complicated rules with Social Security, Medicare. So it's just difficult to retire these days. And so a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people think that when they retire, that 401k is tax-free. They're just going to be able to pull it out and live on it and not have to pay taxes. Well, you're wrong. A lot of people think Medicare doesn't cost anything. Well, it does cost you something, and it will cost you more in the future. There's no doubt about it. So there is no free lunch, as Mama said. So we might as well save for it, get ready for it, and plan. But there is a time, and we did that with a client this morning, where we sat down with them and we showed them the plan that we're working on. And then we showed them how we needed to work to get more income, because if one spouse dies, it's going to affect the income about 50% on their case. And if one spouse needs long-term care, that's going to affect the other spouse. And so we have to be safe with our income, but we can't be so safe on our investment. That's why we've always said we need to have buckets. We need to have a short-term bucket that we pay our bills out of. Then we need to have another bucket that's safe, that we can do our roof and repairs and our car repairs, and we can take our trips on. And then we need to have an income bucket that's going to help us through retirement with extra income. We've got to have at least 3 or 4 buckets. You can't put all of your money in a growth bucket, especially as you've seen this year, and expect your account to grow and to survive. It won't do it. We have to have different buckets.
And John, those different buckets are what we've been talking about today, those different opportunities for placement and deployment of your dollars to make the most of each and every one of them. To sort of wrap up, John, I do want to ask a couple questions that we commonly hear, but I think that there is not enough information on a surface level to answer them. It's not that these questions can't be answered, but we've got to dig beneath the surface to do the type of analysis that you perform there at GulfCoast Financial Services for your client. And that is the question of, what is the rate of return going to be in my Roth IRA versus my IRA, or my IRA versus my 401k? It's a question, again, that kind of can be addressed, but it's not the question that is going to be asked. You've got to do the analysis and show people what they're actually invested in within those accounts in order to give them any kind of ideas for expectations and costs and things like that, correct?
Well, that's right. We have to look at what they're invested in now, what the costs are of those investments, and then work backwards and then come up with another plan that shows them how we can take what they're doing and tweak it so that we can make more. But there's no way that we can sit down and say that this investment is the same as this investment, or, I can take this fund and it's equal to this fund. They're all different. They all have different costs. They all have different fees. And we sit down and analyze those. And we don't generically take an interest rate and say, okay, we're going to make this amount of money on our portfolio. We look at each individual fund and the expenses and then try to come up with a realistic number that they're expected to make. I mean, hopefully I can make as much in my Roth 401 or my Roth IRA or my Roth 401 as I make in my IRA or my 401k. They can be invested the same. Just because I'm going from an IRA to a Roth or from a Roth to an IRA doesn't mean I have to invest it differently. It just means it's a different vehicle with different withdrawal options. Really, the investments are the same. So it gives us the same amount of growth, hopefully, on any of those.
In order to appropriately answer any of those kind of questions, you got to drill down beneath the surface level, ladies and gentlemen. And that is the type of analysis they perform there for their clients and radio show and podcast listeners at GulfCoast Financial Services. They believe that anyone has the ability and everyone deserves to feel confident with their finances, and they can, given proper information and education. And so that is the mission there at GulfCoast Financial Services, to provide that information and education to their clients and to you listening or viewing on the program today. This is a generic introduction to the information on how to do the most for yourself with saving and investing as possible. What are the tools and options that you have available? To get specific recommendations, give a call and get that financially focused plan in writing and in your hand, the proprietary plan that they put together there for their clients at GulfCoast Financial Services. You can have a discussion, ask questions, and come in for a complimentary initial review, conversation, and discuss your situation, your investments, your retirement accounts, and get that review and analysis. Just pick up the phone and give a call, 386-755-9018. That's 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. 9018. John, we know that we want to do the most possible, and in order to do so, we've got to identify every opportunity. That's what you're looking for your clients there at GulfCoast Financial Services. Thank you for bringing the conversation today.
Thank you, Peter. It was great being here. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure speaking with John Kuykendall there at GulfCoast Financial Services. Looking forward to hearing from you soon, helping you any way they can.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through GulfCoast Financial Services Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. GulfCoast Financial Services Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.